In today's episode, we open up the can of worms that is SaaS Production Hosting. Let's deploy. Hello and welcome to Push to Prod. I'm your co-host Colin and I work on Userlot, a customer growth platform to help SaaS companies build strong recurring revenue.
And I'm Dan Miller. I'm building a SaaS for the first time and I'm learning as I go. Each episode, we chat about all sorts of things to do with the world of starting, growing and operating software businesses. Today it's the 9th of April and it's Easter holidays time here in Australia and this is episode number 5. What's been happening, Cole?
Oh, mate, a big week for me. Got lots on. We've been planning the sale of our house. We've got to get out of that. Not our house, but our other place. We've got to move that out. I've had trips. I've got 2 trips coming up overseas that I've been planning. And as a result, all the things that go along with that. So it's been plus work, obviously. So some gnarly programming sort of problems I probably will get into in this conversation. So yeah, a lot. And then obviously long weekend. So
wow, busy week for you. I've probably got the complete opposite. I've had a very chill week and I've had a very chill last few days as well. It is Easter holiday time, as we just mentioned at the start. And I've been doing a lot of not much, which is great. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
I saw you on Twitter. So you got a bit of work in too, I saw. Yeah. Well, when I say work, SaaS work.
Yeah, been building a few little things on the side, having a bit of fun, playing around with, creating list filters and things like that. So, yeah.
So how did your, before we get into sort of the shop talk, what did you do for your Easter, I guess? How does that flesh out for you guys?
Yeah, it's been nice. Day off, doing a lot of, we baked some more hot cross buns again. I mentioned that last week, but yes, they made a second appearance. My mum and her partner dropped over to say good day today, which was pretty nice. It was nice to see them. And yeah, we're just, really chilling out.
I always found Easter was the best as a contractor, which I don't really do anymore, but as a contractor, or if you worked, you do a lot of work overseas and especially into the US, Easter was the only weekend that it's like at least Australia and America, they all took off. Like the US, they might stop one day for Christmas and they're sort of back into it and we're sort of in holiday mode, or they're in holiday mode in July and you're like trying to close sales before the end of the financial year. But I feel like Easter is, I don't know, it's a good weekend to just most people disconnect, which has been pretty cool. I actually had a different Easter for me, which is very weird, but it ended up being pretty cool in the sense that I'm not actually with my kids for Easter. It's the weirdest thing. So we usually go to Armidale, which is my wife's dad is, which is really cold there too, apparently, and you're freezing by the sound of it down in Canberra. But because I've got these 2 big trips coming up and I've got like all this work to get done before I go, I was semi already going, I don't know if I might, and we have a horse, we have this dog that needs a lot of exercise, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, I might. Oh, my dad just had an operation last Tuesday too. So I was like, I might stay home and look after the animals. And it ended up that way anyway because we would have ended up with like all the other side of the family bringing dogs as well. They would have had 4 dogs at their house. And I was like, chaos. And they're all big ones. They're not little anymore. They're all energetic ones.
And when they get together, they just love just running around and romping with each other, eh?
Yeah,
chaos.
So they left their dogs. So I went, I'll stay home. So I've had actually doing work, but also just, I actually went to the movies by myself last night, watched Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, how was that?
I'll give it a 6 out of 10, but it still was funny. So it was good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was good. Yeah, I did. I rated it. Although, not a great movie if you probably don't like that type of stuff. But I found it quite entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked it.
Yeah. No, but apart from that, I mean, that's where things are up to. So I've spent the weekend, doing a bit of, billable work, but also, as I said, got some big, not performance things, but things that can become performance issues if we sort of don't fix them. So sort of knee deep in that at the moment, which has been kind of fun.
Well, that's a good sign. Like you're moving up the order of problem scale into, performance issues, which is a good sign in a way. It's hard, gnarly, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's like some of this is caused because we have a lot of, we don't have a lot of clients, but when we're doing them, the new ones, they're doing a lot of manual importing of a lot of data. And once that goes in, it needs to index it because we use Elasticsearch. It's the first time I've really used Elasticsearch alongside the SaaS product. I actually reached out even to like Derek from Derek Reimer from Savvy Cow from his drip days, going, what did you do? Because ours is not similar drip, but it is in a way. It's a CRM. It's got segmentation, really flexible querying and filtering across all your customers and end users. So we thought Elastic will help with that because we didn't want it to run into a bottleneck. However, obviously now, just keeping that up to date can be quite challenging. So yeah, we're sort of in the middle of bit of that at the moment. So I think I've come up with some creative ways to speed some things up. So that's what I'm getting into it. But yeah.
So it's the indexing that's taking the time, is it?
Yeah. So like we've got it really fast getting the data out, but the problem is obviously when lots of data changes, you need to index it again. And it's that continual, it's either going to be fast getting it indexed and slow getting it out, or that's what I feel, or fast getting it out and slow getting it in. And so it's just a matter of, and we found it's what you do when you build stuff quick. Some of the way we're indexing is probably, we could do it a bit smarter, so we're not doing it as much, and that's sort of what I'm going through at the moment, which is, cool. And I'm not an Elasticsearch person, like expert by any means, so it's a lot of upskilling on that, which has been kind of fun. Have you used any of that sort of stuff? Or
No, I haven't. But that's what I was going to say. It's the life of building things. Hey, you sort of just got to rip it together as fast as you can in the first version of it. And then later on, you'll sort of realize, okay, it's got a potential performance issue here, or it's got a scaling issue over there.
Yeah.
And, you've got these refactoring notes in your code that says, come back here and tidy this up.
Basically.
And then you will.
And like we do know, like we talked about it, like we know that like if something like so, because it really came like 2 more clients starting to use it, and they're startups, but once they start throwing events in, I could see that the back end was starting to do a lot of indexing when it didn't need to, and it was getting a bit, I had to scale it up and stuff. I know we could pull the whole Elastic out if we had to and still get by. So I feel good because we've got this back out plan. It would suck. We'd have to sit down for a week and just smash through and rework how we filter, basically move everything for Elastic queries back into SQL. But we know we could do it, and we know we could probably scale that at least enough for the first few clients. But because we've gone so far down this track already, it's like the gambler's fallacy. It's like, do you just keep betting on this?
Keep going.
So I feel like
just
yes, we should, because I feel also that once we need to come back and maybe put this back in, I'd rather do what I'm doing now with no clients than try put this in later when I've got 50 clients and I can't make a mistake.
That'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah, challenging.
I once wrote, I don't know, it was a tweet or something like that, which was just the thought that was coming to mind at the time. It was like, enjoy the moments when you haven't got many clients or you've got no clients. Just enjoy the moment, because you can muck around to your heart's content.
DB reset,
you can play.
Mate. At least with Rails DB reset. We've done that a few times. I know yesterday, last week, you were talking about pushing to prod.
Yeah.
And you went, it's on prod now. I've got to do it properly. And I'm like, that's true, but we still have occasionally reset our production database.
Yeah.
We don't now because we've actually got clients. But man, we were doing it as of probably late last year, even with a client, because we knew all the data they had was imported, so we could blow it away and import it again.
Yeah, so good call, trying to figure out those issues now rather than down the line when you've got lots more customers on the platform. Yep.
Yeah, but it's always fun, you got your head right in that, and then like I was saying last week, you zoom back out, and we've been looking at that positioning stuff still. That's why the beginning message I said, again, probably doesn't mean much to people, but a customer growth platform. We're trying to position this product not as a customer success tool. And so we're trying to, and there's more messaging coming out in that. So it's been really interesting to start thinking about playing around with the website copy and bit of a segue into Microconf, because I'm going to Microconf and one of the girls there does a tear apart your landing page type session.
Oh, cool.
So I think I'm going to submit Userlot into that and get it ripped to shreds.
Yeah, why not? Roast me. Just roast me.
Yeah. What's it called? Yeah, Reddit roast me.
That's pretty cool. When do you go? When's Microconf?
Yeah, so I'm flying out Friday morning. So it starts Sunday basically, which is cool. Monday our time. But segue over to the weather. I'm going to fly out and get there Friday afternoon and then head straight to Vail for 2 days, which I think I brought up last week. But I was looking at the weather over there. They had like a -16 day this week. It's not going to be that cold.
In your cheeks.
I was like, my Audi ski suit's not going to deal with that, is it?
That's pretty cold. You might even need some wax cream on your cheeks for that one.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's not. It looks to be in that -6 range at night. So not as bad as that. But I was looking at it, go, whoa, that is cold.
Yep. Sounds like they might be having some good snow over there then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't really look at how you're right, they did have daily snow, but I don't know, like to me, it's better than Australia's snow, so it'll be right.
There's no comparison.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So now I do that for a day, and then that's the Saturday, and then I'm going to come back into Denver Sunday afternoon and kick off. The conference kicks off. It's only a 2-day one, but they've done a really good job of I like that it seems like there's not a lot of content. It's all really trying to make there's 200 founders, make sure that you spend a lot of time with each other. That's what I really like. So, yeah. And yeah, I've probably got something to ask you about that, but I'm taking all the time at the moment. How did your, have you got anything you want to bring up on your sort of tech side or?
Oh, mate, no, like I said, it has literally been the chillest week. And I think I've got a similar situation to you. We've got our teenage daughter, she's decided to go over and hang out with some friends for the weekend, or not for the whole weekend, but just, this afternoon and tonight. So yeah, we're doing the same sort of thing. Got the house to ourselves, which is nice.
Yeah, no, it's been really good.
It got me thinking though, because I've had a bit of spare time, it's got me thinking and been playing around with a few things. And there's a tweet that came up during the week where someone was talking about one of their hosting providers that they've got their SaaS running on. They let it get away overnight, and I don't know what happened. Is maybe they had like a bad bit of code or something like that, and it caused a huge a scale up in the hosting platform that they were using, and it turned out to be quite an expensive mistake. I think their pricing, their fee that they were chewing up at the time was going up towards $3,000, and that was just in a 24-hour period.
Oh, geez. $3,000 for 1 day.
Absolutely freaking out. And so that's when I saw that tweet and I went, this has got me thinking maybe I need to be really careful about how I'm going to be hosting things. And then it got me thinking even further down that chain. And I was thinking to myself, hosting is a big sort of area that not many people actually get into in much detail. It's one of those things that you've got to figure it out yourself and get in there and have a go. But it's not like one of those huge topics that heaps of people talk about, Yeah. So that's what I thought, that I thought this would be a sort of worthwhile thing for you and I to talk about.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. And you picked the right, I'll admit I'm probably more of not that we just talk DevOps here, but it is obviously crosses hugely into DevOps. Yeah. And I feel like that's definitely something that I'm a little bit more comfortable with versus, front end, as you would know, like I always gripe about my bad front end design skills. Yeah. So yeah, no, it is. It's interesting. You see a lot more stuff around UX and UI and building stuff, and not too much about, the hosting of it. I feel like, we'll get into it a little bit, but I feel like it's so easy these days to get something up quick on one of these, these platforms as a service that sometimes people don't have to worry about it. Hence what happens with that tweet that you saw where if you don't know about it or you're not taken into consideration, can come up with a pretty hefty bill, yeah.
Yeah, so that got me thinking, Cole. I was thinking it might be interesting if, given we've got Easter holidays breaking us straight at the moment, and look, we're both, we're making the most of our free time at the moment, like with family, friends, activities. You said you were putting together, some things for your preparation for going away and also for selling that house. I thought even though we're off busy having fun and, we thought we still might put something together and get an episode out here today, but it's not a full deep dive episode that we've done in the last few. I thought maybe let's introduce something. And the idea I had was maybe to produce a mini series. And what I mean by that is a series of episodes, really short and sharp, and we talk about the concept of SaaS production hosting. So what do you think of that?
I like it. Because, I've got as I said, I'm pretty comfortable with certain aspects of it, and even you dial it back 10 years, right into private clouds and VPSs and things like that. But I also feel like now it's moved along again. You got that edge computing, obviously containerization, Kubernetes is maybe on the, I don't know, it's, you got your own opinions of that. But yeah, I feel like there's still so much even for me to learn on it. So as I embark on Userlot, we've done something a certain way. it's cool to sort of see what's out there. And I have not touched any of the ones like, which I'm assuming, actually, I don't know what you use, but the one you mentioned on Twitter, what was that one? Was that?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember the actual details, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm totally keen, and
cool.
I know I've got some things to add, but I'm probably going to learn a lot as well.
Nice. Well, okay, that sounds like we're on a green light then. So the idea here is what we're doing here is a bit of a mini series, and like I said, it's all about SaaS production hosting, and it's a big topic. It's got many things to consider, and that's the reason why I thought let's break it up into a bit of that mini short episodes and keep them short and sweet. But in each episode, we'll probably cover one aspect related to hosting a SaaS. There's so much to cover, so yeah, we'll break that up. And the idea is we keep them short so you can get through them, you can listen to them in bite-sized chunks rather than listening to us drone on for an hour and a half at a time.
So can I butt in there? Are we going to like release them separate?
We can, yeah. So I guess the question we got is like, why? Why hosting? Why is that one of the big topics? And I did hint at that before. And the reason I got there is hosting is one of those main pillars of SaaS. You know, when you think about the big ticket items that you've got to have when you're putting together a SaaS business, you've got development, you've actually got to build the thing itself. You've also got the hosting, and that's what I'm mentioning here today. And the other two are operations and monitoring. You know, once you've got this thing built and hosted, you've got to keep looking after it and making sure it's running smoothly. And the main one that everyone talks about a lot is that's marketing and sales. So if you think about those four pillars, you can find out as much as you want about development. You know, there's so much out there, and there's an entire industry around helping people learn how to develop and build products. There's a fair bit out there around operations and monitoring, not so much, not as development, but there's still a fair bit out there. And marketing sales, man, you could speak to any person on the street, and there'll be someone out there who want to talk to you about marketing and sales. So there's no shortage of information in that. But hosting, yeah, like I said, not much out there. So that's what I thought we'd cover that one. Why hosting? Well, I think people will get a little bit out of that, just listening to us figure out and share what we know about that topic. So, yeah. And
I feel like too, I mean, to a certain extent, it's almost, you get that sort of, like religious type, some people, keen on one, not keen on something else, or like in the AWS and Azure world, if you're on one, they're at you to drag you over to their one and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting. You don't get that. Like if I'm into Ruby and I'm on Ruby on Rails, there's not much you can do to drag me over to Python or something, because I have to rebuild my entire thing. But with hosting, depending again the type of tech, and we'll get into it, there's options there. And so, it's interesting.
What are the options, Cole? Like I've got a few that I've figured out, but I reckon it sounds like you know a little bit more about the area than I do. So what do you think the options are when it talks about hosting? Yeah,
and look, I'll probably get people who are right into it probably laugh and will probably say some things wrong, but I feel like you've got the old days of on-prem stuff where you had bare metal servers and ran them yourself, or it probably wasn't even a server. It probably was a PC under your desk, as an old,
I remember those days.
And then
and
then it went cloud in a way, but it was private cloud. You basically just hired VPS, virtual private servers, but you still had to do everything. Yeah, all you got was the root login and bang, you're in. And if you wanted to have it not skewer, that was what you do. That's still and I would say there's a little bit of a crossover between that and just a little bit above it when you get, I think we had it written somewhere like web hosting, when you go get a cPanel or like you're just running something like WordPress, so it's still running on a VPS and you can almost get access to it if you need, but a lot of the times you don't have to. So that's a little bit of a step up. And then you get into that, infrastructure as code. Now, these are the two that start getting a little bit weird. You've got infrastructure as code and platforms as a service. Infrastructure as a service, platforms as a service.
Yeah.
And those ones, I think, are the ones that might want to, detangle a bit and have different options. Because you could argue there's also cloud, like the big cloud providers, AWS, Amazon, Google Cloud. But in some sense, they're PaaS and they're also infrastructure as a service as well, depending on the service you use inside one of those things. So there's a whole host there, I think. But ultimately, that's sort of what you got. You got these people who are like, and each level of them are adding those abstraction layers on to sort of try and make it easier for you to deploy your app, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty thankful for that because I probably don't have as much experience in the hosting world as it sounds like you do. And so I was very happy when I started getting into this space to discover platform as a service, which was something we'll probably get into in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made it very easy. I was just able to fire it up, give them my credit card, get it configured, and I'm up and running, which is nice.
Yeah. So. And look at that, absolutely. And like for bootstrappers and startups, I mean, I personally don't use, like I go straight to AWS through my own infrastructure as code stuff that I've written, like Terraform, like I am containerizing. I should actually add containers in there. Do you think? I mean, where would you see containerization? It's sort of
a bit of a hybrid, isn't it? Between
some of them
infrastructure
use
as a service and private cloud.
Yeah. And I think some of them wouldn't work if they, some of their deployment models are based on the fact that you're using containers. Some of them aren't. So it just depends on obviously the tech and the language and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you sort of just alluded to it, like when would you use it and ease of use?
We can cover those, can't we? Like that's what I'm thinking for each one of those hosting options that you got available to you. I'm thinking in the episode we could talk about, what is it? When would you use it? What are the pros and cons of using it? Some of the risks and things to watch out for, and of course, this is what helps makes it concrete. What are some of the example providers that provide those hosting services?
Yeah.
And interestingly, costs. That has a bit to do with it as well. So I thought maybe we cover that.
And I think one of the cool thing with the cost side is not just like what it costs you, but what vendors sit around it or what benefits do you have? Like, like I know there's a lot of startup credits available for things like Azure, AWS, but does that, I don't know. And that's what I'd like to look into. If you go Vercel, if that's how you say it, or you go some of those other platforms, do they have equivalent credits for startups? I have no idea. That's,
good question.
I mean, I'm assuming heaps of listeners would know that. I have no idea because I don't use them. But those things are all factored into the costs because you might look at something and go, it's quite pricey, but if I can get $10,000 worth of credits that last for 2 years, suddenly I'm not spending anything. And then AWS sounds very attractive versus one of the others. So
that actually probably takes me to another point we could probably get into in the episode is, what does a typical hosting journey look like? Where do you start and when do you level up from one to another? How would you level up? And, in relation to that.
When do you even choose that? Yeah, is that related to like, you sit down and say you're bootstrapping up a node project. Do you need to not even start one line of code before you start thinking about deployment, or can you build the thing with it? So that's a really interesting. Some of them are less worried. Like if you're in .NET, maybe it's less of an issue because maybe you're going to go straight to Azure and put it on app services. But I know Rails, there's a million different ways you could deploy it. So it's like, it's an interesting way to get there, and I'm assuming it probably is up to your skill level as well. But
it's definitely a different journey, isn't it? I mean, I remember times when I've worked for other people in other organisations, and they've got the luxury of resources, right? And so they've got an entire team whose job it was or is to set up the infrastructure, make sure it's all working. And then if you're in the dev space, you just basically have to go and speak to these people and say, right, I need a X machine that does X and Y, Z, thanks. Yeah. And then I need a couple of environments, please. I need a dev, I need a testing, I need a staging, and I need a prod. And they'll sort it all out for you. Whereas in SaaS land, when you're doing it yourself or you're working with a small team, you don't have that luxury early on in the piece. So you're going to have to make some interesting decisions up front. But then as you grow, you probably find that you've got some more resources available to you and you can actually start looking at various options on making the most of, the various platforms and the hosting options that are there. So,
And where do you see, because like one of the things, I'm a big proponent of this, but it would depend on, again, the size of the company, is like you build it, you run it, you deploy it. Like, so that whole thing flips some of that on its head even. That, like, I know Atlassian, one of their newest products they brought out, it was a build it, you run it thing. So even though they're a huge company and they've got Jira and all that, this small department built this new Jira product and they ran it. It's run and deployed through their own DevOps in their team. Yeah. Which, I feel is a pretty cool thing too. But it does mean just because you're a developer, you suddenly have to have either skills on your team or you need to level up your DevOps ability as well, because now it isn't just about throwing it over the fence a lot of the time and going, I need X.
It's an interesting one. It's an art form and an absolute professional skill, DevOps, for sure. Yeah. I was chatting to a few people who do this for a living, and I also saw an interesting comment from a gentleman on Twitter who hinted at the sense that he's been working in this space for 20 years. And so he calls himself pretty good, but he wouldn't say he's an absolute expert yet. And I'm thinking 20 years. Wow. Okay. So it's not something you can just go and think and have a crack at yourself, because this is one of those places where you'd see the warning sign at the door that says, "Here be dragons."
God,
if you stuff up,
have you logged into AWS console before?
Yeah. If you get this wrong, you're either causing an absolute mess for yourself, or you're opening yourself up to so much danger in terms of threat and security risk.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's like, again, that's a whole different topic again, isn't it? In terms of the security implications of all of them, because to be honest, it doesn't matter which one really. Because like if you might go, I'll do it all myself, but then you have to do everything. But okay, well, I'll put it on some other platform, let them deal with it. But then you're like, but it's quite complex to set up, and maybe I've done something wrong, and now I've inadvertently let people in anyway. So yeah, I could tell you a dumb thing I did though once. About that was accidentally. Have you heard it? Do you have your dot files? Yeah. So I stopped doing this, but it's quite common to have dot files in GitHub. Like to share all your aliases and stuff, and you'd go and look at people's dot files and go, And I used the same set for, I don't know, 5-10 years. Yeah. And a few years ago, I was just like, I just might clean some up. So I'm going around cleaning up. It was like 11 o'clock at night. This is the dumb thing. This is why I don't do this. Yeah. And I made some changes. I think, that's right. It was when Apple brought out Z Shell right over Bash. And so I was cleaning and refactoring all my files. I went, that's got it all good now. And just dumb, I Git added it, and it said it wasn't going to add all the files because I've got a bunch of ignores. I can't remember what I did, but for some reason I overrode whatever I did, and I checked everything in my home directory which included the .aws/credentials file with all the AWS keys. Checked it pushed it into GitHub, went to sleep. Went to bed.
And it didn't give you a warning or anything?
It did, but about 2 or 3 in the morning, I just checked my messages, and here's all these emails from GitHub going, we've scanned, they scan your accounts and realise you've got the keys. Yep. AWS shut my account. But because I had, someone did start, it was lucky it wasn't on any of my client stuff, but it was just on my own AWS account. Somebody got in and they just start kicking off Bitcoin miners or whatever. But it was the dumbest. I was literally the most stupidest thing I've ever done in my life, in terms of tech. And I was just like, and I had to obviously cycle all the keys and went through everything. Everything worked out okay, but I was just like, that was a dumb thing to do.
No, don't be too hard on yourself. It happens more often than you think. Trust me.
The fact that all those providers scan the codes for that stuff, it just tells you how common it must be. Yeah. But don't do stuff at 11 and don't check things in and then go to bed. Yeah.
Oh, mate. Which probably takes us to the last little thing that I think we might want to look at in this mini series is how do you skill up? So, where can you go for learning resources if you're starting out and you want to do it yourself, or later on if you're thinking about hiring in someone else or paying someone to do it for you, where do you get some specialist support services? How do you do that? And even in the long term, if you can find your organisation's going to be big enough and have enough resources, you might actually hire people in-house to do this for you. So how would you go about doing that? That's something, the things I think we might want to talk about as well. How would you skill up around hosting and DevOps? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds good. Yeah, I like it. Plenty of people I know who would also, either contribute or we could hit them up for different questions on that sort of things as well. And there's a lot of pricing. I know one of the guys from Microconf, run those, cloud auditing cost things, for you. So you can sign up to them and they can alert you and all that sort of stuff, because that's exactly right. Half the time they're supposed to be cheaper and easier for you, but obviously if you're not watching it, they can rapidly become more expensive.
There was a gentleman by the name of Dean. I forget Dean's surname, but Dean was running this podcast with a gentleman by the name of Simon who created Snapshooter. Simon's over in the UK. And Dean's job, one of the skills he had was actually helping people make the sense out of AWS and around the pricing models of it. Yeah. So it was an absolute service in itself. So yeah, you're right. It can take a bit of skills there. So interesting.
Yeah, it's they're all. I mean, again, not jumping the boat, but do you use any of them particularly, or you're not? In terms of Azure, Google, or AWS, the big three, I guess.
I've been playing around with AWS, and I've also just been playing around with one of the platform as a service providers named Render. Render.com.
Right. Yeah. So, because the reason why I asked that is I don't know anything about Google Cloud. Like I've only ever done Azure and AWS, so it'd be interesting to know about that one. But it's definitely a third place compared to those other two, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's watch this space, listeners, because we're going to figure out as well as we go, and we'll share that with you what we find. That was the whole idea about the episode tonight, just to give it a bit of an intro, let you know what we're thinking, and let you know where we're going with it, so you can join in and follow along.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I had on the subject tonight, Cole. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Hey, I did have one more point. I forgot to bring it up at the beginning about Microconf. I wanted to ask you a question and get your advice, and maybe the listeners, if they actually have an opinion. I have to pick a micro excursion, which is just for 2 hours on the Monday, and we go. You pick up one excursion out of, I think, 5 or 6.
What are your options? What do you get to choose from?
So there's 5, right? So there's go-karting, which I like go-karting. I think it's quite intense. I always end up with really sore hands. I don't know, have you been go-karting?
Oh, yeah, you can get blisters.
Yeah, you can't unclasp your hands. No one can see what I'm doing here. But yeah, so there's that. That sounds, and I also know a couple of people, well, when I say no, I don't know anyone at Microconf, but I know them digitally, some of them. One guy's going and he asked me if I'm going on that one. So I was like, oh, that could be cool. Then there's one called, I have no idea about this, Explore the Weird and Wonderful at Meow Wolf, which is enter a world of imagination and creativity at Meow Wolf, an immersive art experience. So it's combining technology, storytelling, interactive exhibitions. Looks cool. I have no idea what it is.
It's an immersive art and entertainment production company, right? Yeah.
There's a safe one that I originally did. I put my name down for this straight away because I thought, oh, this is easy for me. That's Downtown Denver Pub Crawl. So that's the only thing is, I feel like there's going to be a lot of drinking anyway, and so I was like, that was probably a dumb decision, but I can change it. So that's hence why I wanted to ask you. The funny one, which is limited capacity, is when in Denver, cannabis tour. So they don't call it the Mile High City for no reason. And I thought, being an Australian, I mean, I've been over there a fair bit anyway, so it's not really new news anymore, but it is different culture. It's different,
yeah. That's definitely not, you don't see that here.
So I was like, maybe that one. I don't know. And then you're obviously just hanging back at the hotel and catching up with other people. So yeah, I need to choose, I guess the pub crawl now I'm starting to think no, because I'll do it anyway. So really to me, it's a cross between go-karting, the art one, or the cannabis one. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm stuck. But the problem I have with the go-karting one is I want something where I can talk to people, and you're going to be go-karting. So then I'm like,
there's no talking there. You got a helmet on.
I don't know. Any of them, what would you do if you were going?
If it was me, let me think. I would probably check out the Meow Wolf thing. That sounds like my cup of tea. Like, it sounds like a bit of a quirky, kooky type of art experience. Yeah, that sounds like something I'd enjoy.
It's pretty creative. So like you come out of there with, and that's sort of what you want sometimes. And when you're at some of these startup conferences where it's probably very, I don't know what side of the brain it is, but like it's very analytical. You're talking about sales or product or whatever. It'd be interesting to take a couple of hours out and go, whoa, okay, that's totally.
At the same time, different. I'm also thinking that, going to a conference like this, it's always a good way to make friends and meet, build long-lasting relationships with people. And what better way for that to happen if you go to a pub? Everyone lets their hair down and has a bit of a chat, has a bit of a laugh. So that's likely to happen. Yeah. I reckon at the what was it, the cannabis tour? I reckon maybe one or two people there might be just a little bit too glassy-eyed to actually engage in a conversation.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't want it to go. You don't want to. I don't know. If you could also. It looks fun, but then if it's all, I don't know, more about how they do it all and grow it all, it's interesting, but it's not very relevant. Unless, cannabis business is really huge now. Like if you're in that space, then great, but you'd probably know about it anyway. Anyway, I'll make that decision and get that written in. So it's going to be fun.
So that'd be my choices, the quirky art experience just for the fun of it, but also just being around when people are letting their hair down and they're open to a good chat.
Yeah, for sounds sure. Good. Oh, I like it. Awesome. Now, well, that's. I'm hoping next week we can do an on remote, on Microconf, sort of whatever you call it, version.
Yeah, nice.
So we'll see how we go.
I reckon you're going to have a ball, Cole. I hope you have a great flight. I hope you have a good trip, and just enjoy yourself, mate. Really make the most of it.
Definitely worth it. I mean, last time I was international was 2 days before Australia locked down, and I was in Denver, so I flew out of there just as the world shut down, and now I'm going back. So sounds cool.
Cool,
awesome.
Man.
Oh, well, thanks for listening, everyone. Like always, remember to reach out. You can always, especially with this new mini series coming up, hit us up on Push to Prod Pod on Twitter, or send us email at the same sort of address at gmail.com. We're always after your suggestions for topics and questions, and you can also find me on Twitter at Gomo and Dan at Mr. Dan Miller. So until next time, Dan, have a good week, mate, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Cole, mate. Take it easy and all the best on your trip. And thanks, everyone, for listening tonight. We'll talk to you and see you next time.